Hi. This week's First Chapter Friday is Opinions and Opossums by Braden. Braden is a Vermont author, and she also wrote Flight of the Puffin and The Benefits of Being an Octopus. This book is just as great as those books are, so I definitely think it's one you might want to check out. This month's CMS Library book club challenge topic, is to read a book from one of the best of 2023 lists. That there's a lot of lists that tend to come out at this time of year, end of December, beginning of January. That list people's opinions on what are the best books of 2023 that came out that year. So I have included some of those lists. You can check out the books on the library's Google Classroom. And I'm going to read the first tiny little bit of this book. Chapter 1. Lots of kids have to get braces, but not everyone needs them because their adult canine teeth won't descend from the roof of their mouth. Weird, right? Just be glad you weren't there a few weeks ago when they excavated mine like it was a human archaeological site. And it doesn't help that the neighbor who brings me to all my orthodontist appointments is always sitting in the waiting room reading an archaeology magazine when I come out. Today, as my orthodontist tightened my braces, he joked that I was probably extra sweet since my sharpest teeth were buried so deep. I just nodded. It's not like I could say anything with all that equipment in my mouth anyway. I didn't have anything to say as we drove home either. My mom was so relieved when Gracie, the neighbor lady, agreed to bring me to these appointments, since my mom can't take time off work. But it's awkward. Gracie tried starting conversations at the beginning. How's school? Fine. What's your favorite subject? Lunch. We didn't get much further since I was pretty sure there's not much someone around 70 has in common with a 12-year-old kid. Now we mostly drive in silence. Until this afternoon, when Gracie screams, "A possum!" She slams on the brakes, and immediately the guy behind us starts honking. But instead of driving forward, Gracie turns off the engine and actually gets out in the middle of the road. "What are you doing?" I call after her. She says something, but I can't hear because of the honking. She pops the trunk and starts rummaging around. What could she possibly be doing? Maybe my mom shouldn't have been so eager to hand me to the first warm body with a car she found. I sink down into the seat so no one can see me. But then Gracie opens my passenger door. She's wearing thick blue rubber gloves, and points to something lying in the road. "An opossum," she says. "We've got to save it." What reality is this? I peer over the dashboard at the opossum lying in front of us. Isn't it dead? Probably just frightened into a state of shock. Gracie hands me a pair of gloves. "Agnes, if you help, we can move it to the edge of the road so it stays safe. There might be babies in the pouch." "They have a pouch?" I say. "Yes, there are continents only marsupials. Let's check." I glance back at the line of cars forming behind us and the guy still honking his brains out. Everyone will see me if I get out of this car. I can't. But what if there are babies in the opossum's pouch and it's my fault they don't make it? I pull on the gloves and join her beside the motionless opossum. My breath catches in my throat as she gently opens the opossum's pouch to reveal what looks like a dozen tiny, squirming babies. And I wanted to keep sitting in the car. I squat down, and together, Gracie and I carefully pick up the mama possum's stiff body and start moving her toward the side of the road. The guy behind us sticks his head out the window and yells, "Gross!" That's probably what I'd have said a minute ago, too. But even though this possum smells like a dumpster full of rotten trash, all I can picture are those babies. Did they deserve to be called gross? We set the mama's body down away from the road, under some bushes at the edge of the woods. "Do you think she really might still be alive?" Gracie nods. Possums have evolved to play dead when threatened, since most animals won't eat one that's already dead. But this instinct isn't great if your predator is a line of traffic ready to run you over. "Can you wait here while I move our car out of the way?" I nod and study the mama possum. Her teeth are bared and they look super sharp. Once Gracie's car is parked on the shoulder, the angry guy takes off, still yelling as he goes. But Gracie doesn't seem bothered. She simply takes the gloves back from me. I always keep supplies in my trunk for situations like this. Really? Who is this woman? Maybe I should be talking to her after all. I watch her as she calmly puts everything back in the trunk. Why doesn't the opossum know not to cross such a busy street? Gracie gestures at an apple core on the edge of the road. Part of the reason they've been successful species for nearly 60 million years is because they follow the smell of food, even if it means crossing a road with cars. Gracie shrugs. Cars have only been around for 100 years, and evolution is a slow process. The opossum certainly isn't the only animal that does what it's done for years, even if it doesn't make sense. I picture what could have happened if Gracie hadn't stopped. How ridiculously unfair. All the opossum wanted to do was eat the apple someone must have thrown out their window. I kick the apple core as far as I can into the woods. If anyone should be angry, it's the opossum. Is it her fault she did what millions of years of ancestors have done? And look what almost happened. Gracie and I stay, watching the opossum from the car, until finally she stirs, stands up, and walks into the woods, taking her babies with her. Chapter 2. When my mom gets home from her job at the bank, I'm at the kitchen table looking at opossums on my phone. I never gave them a second thought before, but now I can't get them out of my head. Did you know that an adult opossum can eat 5,000 ticks a year, I say? That's a lot of ticks, my mom says, as she drops her purse on the counter and starts going through the mail. How was the orthodontist? Fine. At least the appointment was. I don't have a word to describe what happened afterward. My mom tugs off her stockings, as she always does the minute she comes in the door. My mom hates stockings, but Mr. Adams, her boss, likes his female employees to wear skirts and stockings. It's not a written rule or anything, but my mom says that doesn't matter. So, guess what she wears every day? Tight, itchy, sliding down stockings. There it is, my mom says, pulling an envelope from the mail pile. I didn't want to miss it because we've got to fill this out and drop it off at church this weekend. What is it? Now that you're 12, we can sign you up for confirmation classes. What? Do I have to? I didn't have the best experience at Sunday school a few years ago when I made the mistake of asking what original sin was. I learned that 1, I should totally have known the answer already, and 2, everything bad was Eve's fault from when she bit into that apple in the Garden of Eden. And to think I'd been excited that we were finally talking about a Bible story with a girl. Good times. I didn't ask another question in that class. Plus, it bothers me that everyone at church is positive there's a heaven, and while I want there to be one, I'm not sure. I can't count the number of times someone's told me my dad is in a better place. Maybe that made them feel good, but I'd sure prefer it if he was here. I wish I could even remember him, but I was too young when he died. Sorry, my mom says as she starts to fill out the form, it's non-negotiable, not with your grandmother counting on you to be confirmed as a full member of the church. My grandmother, also named Agnes after St. Agnes, is super religious, but Florida is a long way from Connecticut. I start to say that, but my mom is still talking. And certainly not with Mr. Adams being president of the church board and talking for years about their membership targets. She finishes the form and tucks it into an envelope. Maybe we can't give much to the annual fund, but we can give him one more church member for his charts. Rick Adams, president of the church board of trustees and president of the First Whitefield Savings and Loan Bank where my mom works, has way too much control over our lives. Do we really have to care about his charts, I ask? My mom starts doing the dishes. We do if I want to get promoted, and considering how much your braces are costing. Yeah, I know, I say. The promotion isn't optional. I head to my room, wondering why my mom insists on dragging me to church every Sunday, wearing stockings for the 6th day of the week, when I'm not even sure she likes going. Not to mention, what was she thinking naming me after her super religious mother? Perhaps that opossum isn't the only one stuck in the middle of the road. In my room, I look for my writing notebook before I realize it's my best friend Mo's turn with it. We do a lot of co-writing. Making up stories together is our thing, specifically stories about shopping carts. Basically, whenever we see an abandoned shopping cart, we write a story from the shopping cart's perspective. We've been writing them since 5th grade, and now we have 3 notebooks full of stories: shopping cart stories, more shopping cart stories, and the continuation of shopping cart stories. But now I have a new inspiration. What about writing from an opossum's point of view? Why would that mother have said today, if she could talk? Who are you calling gross? Are you carrying a whole bunch of babies around in your pouch? Have some respect. I find another notebook, lie down on my stomach on my bed, and start writing. The opinion of an opossum. Let me tell you how much I hate cars. We opossums have lots of jokes about them. Why did the opossum cross the road? She didn't. She was smushed before reaching the other side. And yeah, I'm sure it doesn't seem so smart to play dead in the middle of the street. Well, it's not my fault. I've been playing dead in the face of danger for 60 million years. Do you know how long cars have been around? About 100 years. Do you know how much bigger 60 million is than a measly 100? A lot. And do you know how hard it is to break a habit? Let's take, for example, a habit that human beings are quite used to: driving cars. Now, most of the people who drive cars know that it's bad for the environment, but do they stop? No, because they need to get to the grocery store. So, don't you be judging the opossum that walks to the edge of the road to eat that apple core. Chapter 3. The next day at school, I take a seat at our table in the corner of the cafeteria as Mo lays out the food his mom packed for him: leftover baked ziti, carrot sticks, sour cream, and onion potato chips, and a thinly sliced apple. Mo's right that apples taste better like that, but my mom says she doesn't have the time to cut my apples that thin. Plus, she says it all goes to the same place anyway. So, what's this confirmation class thing you texted me about? Mo says, starting in on the chips. Basically, we've got 8 weeks to study and prove we're religious enough to officially become church members. Or else what? If you can't prove it, do they send you off on your own iceberg? I smile. To float off into the frozen fog of the Arctic. Like a peaceful, icy cowboy, Mo finishes. That's one of our favorite lines. It's from a story about the shopping cart we found chained to a bin of ice outside a gas station. This is why I feel so lucky to have 0/-0 faith, Mo says. He always says that his mom's non-observant Jewishness and his dad's lapsed Catholicism canceled each other out in a massive matter-antimatter collision. I've asked him which is the matter and which is the antimatter, but he just says the antimatter is the other one. And he calls it 0/-0 because he can. I picture the girls who I know will be in the confirmation class too, like our classmate Miranda. She's the daughter of my mom's boss, Rick Adams, so that's a done deal. Even though we're not friends, she always invites me to her birthday parties because it's the Christian thing to do. Not like I enjoy having to go. Most of her friends spend the party fake smiling at me and then making fun of me as soon as they think I can't hear. It's easier at school where they pretend I don't exist, but of course my mom wouldn't let me say no to that invitation, just like how she won't let me get out of this class. Well, I hope the class isn't too terrible, Mo says. You know people can be jerks. They sure can be. Can you believe that guy who yelled out of his car window? I blurt out. Who does that? You're still thinking about that opossum hater? Mo shakes his head. Don't let yourself care about Sorry. This is a made up word, so let me say that again. Don't let yourself care about opinions. Opinions is Mo's trademark word for other people's opinions. He should also trademark his ability to not actually care about them. What if they're opinions about an opossum who can't stand up for herself because she's paralyzed in fear in the middle of the road, I say? Opinions about an opossum, Mo repeats, and he must like the sound of it because he keeps saying it over and over. I'm being serious, I cut in. I'm sorry, he says, as we both get up to head back to class. I just don't think you need to get so worked up about it. Not much bothers Mo. He's nearly a foot taller than he was last year, but he still wears the same sweatpants, even though they end right below his knees. Actually, there's one thing that bothers him. Our school is kind of sports obsessed, and the basketball coach wants him to play. The coach even called his parents, and now they're bugging him to attend basketball camp this summer. We dump our trash, and when we pass the bulletin board, Mo puts his arm out to stop me, just like my mom in the car when she slams on the brakes. There's a new flyer announcing the town newspaper's annual student writing contest. Mo grips my arm. We're finally old enough. We've got to enter. Should we start working on a new shopping cart story after school? I shake my head and start walking toward our lockers. Haven't we sort of exhausted the topic? How about we write something new from an opossum's perspective? But the judges will love our shopping cart stories, Mo insists. I thought we weren't supposed to care about opinions, I say, even from judges. And I think opossums might have a lot to say. But we always write shopping cart stories, and the next one is bound to be contest worthy. I think of Gracie. Just because things have been done one way before doesn't mean it's the right way. What if a shopping cart runs into an opossum? Mo, I interrupt. What? I swallow. I don't want to do it. Mo's mouth drops open. No way. We are not going to not do it. You just need some inspiration. Let's go to the old park again for today's shopping cart hunting. We found some great ones there. I don't want to go shopping cart hunting. I want to go home and work on the opinion of an opossum. But I can't say no to Mo. Not when he cares about something this much. Fine, I sigh. I'll go. Chapter 4. We get off my bus 3 stops later than normal, but on a street that's nearly identical to mine, where the houses are just as small and smushed together. Mo starts walking down the sidewalk sideways. Actually, leaping down the sidewalk sideways. What are you doing? We're hunting. I'm channeling my inner caveman. I try to mimic one of his sideways leaps. There's no harder prey than a metal shopping cart, he tells me. I do another small sideways leap. You really think this is how cavemen hunted? I'm thinking it's more like how they walked when the ground was actually lava. Just then, someone comes out of their door and goes to their mailbox. I start walking normally, but Mo doesn't stop. The guy stares. Mo doesn't ever seem to care, and I follow him down a dead-end street into the park. There's an old playground here that no kids ever seem to come to, probably because their parents prefer the newly renovated park on the other side of town where you don't have to fend off splinters. Which way? Mo asks. To the ball field or to the History of Whitefield area? Or over the dangerous bouncy bridge? History of Whitefield, I say. Mo nods and takes off his shoes and socks before sideways leaping away. Try it, Agnes. The feel of the grass is wonderful, he exclaims. I like keeping my shoes on, I say. Mo leaps past the World War II memorial, the Korean War monument, and the monument to the town's founders. He suddenly stops beside the clump of trees that's next to the square monument. At least, that's what I've always called it in my head. It's a big square plaque in front of a stone wall in the shape of a square. Fate, he yells. It's fate! What's he talking about? I hustle to catch up with him. And there, behind the trees, inside the square stone wall, is a shopping cart. Mo dances around it. It's like the shopping cart gods looked down and saw you were getting bored and decided to give you your very own story. Huh, I say. Why is this my story? Well, it's your territory. I look at the square plaque that he's pointing at, and for the first time ever, I actually read it. Historic Town Sheep Pen. There used to be sheep here? My eyes snap to his. What do sheep have to do with me? Because remember how all those St. Agnes cards your grandmother sends you always have sheep on them? So you must be connected somehow. He looks at me, and his face changes, like he can tell I am in no way about to go along with this. I am named after my grandmother, I say, not some stupid sheep. And maybe it's just random that the cards have sheep on them. Come on, he says. I didn't mean that in a bad way. Sheep are nice and fuzzy. And can you imagine if they were still here messing up this perfect suburbia? I mean, they poop all over the ground. Yeah, but sheep just follow other sheep around, I say. Who wants to be considered a brainless follower? Mo looks down and his shoulders drop. I'm sorry, he peeks up at me. If you want, you can call me Momo for the rest of the day. Never mind, I tell him. I look past him at the tiny square of grass inside the walls. Why didn't they make the walled-in area bigger? Would the sheep have complained? Would they have said anything? But Mo is still full of ideas. Our story could be about a shopping cart that wakes up here with no memory of leaving the grocery store parking lot, but its secret dream was always to escape, and so now I cut him off. Mo, I'm not writing about any shopping cart. I look him right in the eye. I just want to focus on my opossum opinions. And opossums and sheep are completely different. But Agnes, I shake my head. I am not a sheep. So that's the first little bit of Opinions and Opossums by Braden. Check it out at our school library.